Oh, by the way,
Also a
Matt,
great
can you?
start.
It's blurry, but can you see it? It
No?
showed. You
Oh
can't.
God,
Oh,
it's
it's a
it's.
It's
record.
your porn tape, is what it is.
I can see what I mean. The way that the camera is filtering it, it's actually blurring it. Like it's not allowed to show
I
the
know.
cover.
It's
It's
your
There you
very
go.
album,
funny.
I kind of see
I
it.
can I know that it's my album. It just looks like it's being censored.
like it's your porn tape.
It's a porn tape that has no video.
Abs absolutely raw
That's why he had
photograph
all the
of
mics. He didn't have
1960.
cameras.
Use your
Maddie,
imagination.
Now we
Maddie does
know.
Michigan.
It's Richmond on the cover, okay?
Between the photo shoots from magazines, the fashion shows and beauty queens, and what else I don't know. On the TV and the movie screen, the sky and buses in between are images we're shown of what it means to be happy, of the products we must buy, of what we need to feel complete and be happy with our lives. Gotta reject the concept. You gotta reset all your goals. 'Cause if what you think you need is to satisfy your greed, you gotta reject, reset, repeat until you get it right. Happy couples, happy families, and people that you wanna be are splashed on every page. They tell you what to eat and what to drink and what to buy and what to think and what is all the rage. And in the end, is it worth it? Well, I can't say yes or no. 'Cause what I've seen lies in between what I've learned and what I know. You gotta reject the concept. You gotta reset all your goals. 'Cause if what you think you need is to satisfy your greed, you gotta reject, reset, repeat until you get it right. You gotta reject, reset, you gotta reject, reset, you gotta reject, reset, you gotta reject, reset until you get it right. Reject until you get it. Reset until you get it right. Reject until you get it. Reset until you get it right.
My name is Jess. You're listening to Scout Talk with Skagazine. I'm here with my co-host, Eric.
Hello.
Our podcast started off as a digital zine and real quick turned into a podcast because bands just want to talk about themselves and we wanted to give them a space to do it.
That's why
So
Matt was one of our first guests.
Matt,
Okay.
one of our first, was he? I don't even know how long ago that was.
I was definitely in the first 100.
Well, we've
Yeah.
only had 76.
That was the joke. That was the joke.
Oh, I'm slow.
Well, you guys
So
have
anyways,
a pretty,
I interrupted you. I'm
That,
sorry.
Eric?
I interrupted you. I'm so sorry. Go
You
ahead.
always interrupt me. It's like the thing.
Fair.
So anyway, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky. Where else are we? TikTok. And the podcast is streaming on Spotify, YouTube, and now Apple Podcasts. Finally, this will be the first episode that goes on Apple Podcasts right away.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm really happy about that. It was a long time coming, but they wanted my social security number and shit, and I wasn't cool with that. So,
But you finally gave in.
no, I got an EIN.
Nice.
Remember? They weren't getting
How they get you.
Did you give him Matt's social security number? Is that what you did?
Fuck, Eric. You had to tell him.
I usually give him Wixom's.
I give it out as a little bit of anarchism. Like, as long as everybody's stealing my identity, we're all getting away with something.
Do you want to tell our listener?
Now you
audience
tell
you're-
me.
Just kidding.
Now you tell me. So we're here tonight with the band The Pandemics, 3 members of The Pandemics so far. Do you all want to take a second to introduce yourself and say what your role is in the band?
Sure. My name's Chris, and I play trombone and I sing.
I'm Jaime. I play guitar and background sing.
I'm Alan, and I play bass.
But we also have Matt Wixson with us tonight. If you are interested in learning more about Matt Wixson, you probably will, but go check out our back catalog where he was one of our first 100 guests that were on this.
Fuck, I'm gonna have to load that on Apple Podcasts.
But why, just out of curiosity, why did we bring Matt along, Chris?
Well, it's a great question.
Justify this shit.
That's basically what I'm asking you.
Well, I mean, don't all your guests bring their friends on with them for their
No,
podcast? Like,
I wish more than
security
one.
blankets, or no, Matt's on with us for a very special reason. You know, Matt contributed 2 guest remixes of one of our tunes on our brand new record, which is called Youthful Exuberance, and comes out on October 28th. And we figured, you know, Matt also had a brand new record out, which he can elaborate on. It's called I'll let him go through all the details. Called Mericannia, but he had a few of us on his record as well. So
All 3 of you here.
that's true. By some coincidence, just the 3 of us that decided to show up. We're all guests on Matt's record too.
So Eric and I are the only ones left out of this party.
So everyone was
you're-
on your album but me.
And
You're the
me.
host of the
And
parties
me.
now. Well, I think what Chris was trying to say is that the 4 of us have collaborated on a set of tunes this year.
Yes.
With some other people on my album and some other people all over theirs as well. But yeah.
Yep, that's the long and short of it. And you know, for us, this record is sort of a long time coming. It's our first like official release of more than just like a single since like 2015, I think. So 10 years
10
we were
years.
due. And it took a long time to get there. There's a bit of an interesting story or two on how it got to be where it is today, and we can talk about all that and more. Yeah, our first show was back in December of 2010, so we're approaching our 15-year anniversary as a band. And you know, we had it's interesting because, you know, we took a few years to sort of solidify everything, get to the point of playing shows. You know, first, like I said, 2010 was our first show, and you know, we went for a good stretch where, you know, we were kind of like the de facto house band in New York City for a while, like, because in, I guess, the late early 2010s, I guess there really wasn't all that much going on in terms of new ska music in New York City. So, you know, we were like the house band for a while for a lot of bigger bands coming through on tour. And, you know, we kept pretty busy till right about, you know, 2020 when, you know, something happened, and everyone decided to take 2 years off and, you know, do explore the world, explore themselves. And then we came back and we decided to start making a record. And you know, there were a few hiccups along the way when we made that record. You know, we had you may notice if you look at the credits on the record, it's a pretty long list of people that were involved in making this record. I don't know if you guys have I think I sent you some of the artwork and stuff, but it traverses, you know, 2 different lineups of the band before, and not counting the one we have now. I guess the short version is that in 2023 we started working on this record in earnest, and by 2024 we had hit a point where just a bunch of different stuff happened, but we ended up having to change out a bunch of people. Like our guitarist, bassist, drummer, and trumpet player decided that that would be a good jumping off point for them. And to be fair, I mean, I'm not going to go too in depth to the reasons. Everyone had a lot of life change stuff. Everyone had a lot of, stuff that they wanted to pursue and do. And when we first started working on these tunes, don't forget, some of this was like before the pandemic. And we kind of came to the realization that a lot of us were, living very differently than we had when we started, working on the record. And it just sort of seemed like a bit of a jumping off point for a lot of what was going on. I know myself personally, I came out of the pandemic with a kid, with a 2-year-old, so my life was very different, and it was it sort of all came to a head. And it took a while. Like, I lost my job. The company I was working for went out of business, so I was out of work for a pretty extended period of time after that, looking for a new job. Then we had to, try and figure out what we were going to do with myself and 2 sax players left. And we decided, we still had music we wanted to play and tunes we wanted to write. So we set out to find, a way to make ourselves whole again. We held tryouts, and we were very lucky to come up with 3 awesome players. 2 of them are here with us tonight, Jaime and Alan on guitar and bass, who are in another band called Not From Concentrate as well. And our drummer, Jay Reed, came from a band called Across the Aisle, also New York City. And it took a little while, but it feels good to finally sort of be closing out the last chapter of the band with the release of, Youthful Exuberance, and looking forward to the new chapter, which is, the crew we have now. We're already writing new tunes, and, it feels good to be able to focus on the future again.
That's awesome.
Sorry.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
How much of the album was written with the new members versus the old members?
This record was written before the new crew came on board.
Okay.
We did actually just have something that came out just this week. There's a compilation series called the Specialized series in the UK. It's a charity tribute album, and we recorded a tune there. We kind of got in very late, like under the wire. We're looking for somebody to master our record, and Paul Iris from Specialized had done some master work for us in the past. And I got to asking him when I was interviewing him about mastering our record. So, well, what's going on with Specialized? What are you guys doing this year? Are you still accepting submissions? He's like, yeah, but it's like in 6 weeks, And I said, you know what? Why don't we let me talk to the gang and see what we can do. And I started pitching a couple of ideas back and forth, and everyone sort of threw their opinions online. I remember Jaime was really excited about the tune we ended up picking. Maybe Jaime could tell you a little bit more about the recording process, because we kind of threw him in the deep end, right away.
We chose "You Ought to Know" by Alanis Morissette because the theme was like powerful women in rock. So we went with that, and I sang it, and I really tried to hit the notes as they are hit the best I could, which was very interesting and took many takes. And we recorded it all in our house. Like we have like a little recording setup here that we've been using for our band Not From Concentrate. So we're like, let's do it. We can do it here. We can do it for free. It'll be great. We had never tracked horn before, so that was an experience in like getting the right tones and like knowing. Thankfully, like James was like, oh, usually they put a mic near the pads and near the bell. So like, thankfully you guys had some experience, obviously recording and things like that. And with because we don't really have horns in our in our other group. So
yeah, we're also running off of a gift that a colleague of mine gave to a company that I work for over COVID as a gift, and it's basically like a 15-year-old Dell computer, which now has officially bit the dust. So if you want to know, is the last product on that. We're now running on fresh Macintosh computers. So yeah, it'll be a new experience if we ever do it again.
Ooh.
But yeah, so yeah, that was the last of that era.
But it was kind of cool because
It was fun.
it was
fun.
a way for us to get to know our new band mates better because we were so used to like making songs the way that we made them in our other group. And it was like, that's not what the pandemics are. And it's like, you're right. So it was like, it was a good experience. I got very mad at a point. I like lost my mind at a point, but then I realized it was all for a good reason and it worked out.
Are you going to tell us why you lost your mind or got mad at?
Because I was like, Chris, I don't understand what you want me to do with these. He's like, something's not sounding right. And I'm like, I don't care. I don't care what you think. And we were just going back and forth on Discord. And he was trying to be really nice about it. And I was being really nasty about it. And I'm really sorry. It was just so stressful because it was such a deadline. And I was like, but
There really wasn't all that much wiggle room. I mean, it's they always say like they have a little less time than they actually do, but we only had 2 rehearsals to hash the whole thing out, and then like right away we were into tracking.
And when
And it was completely different in
we
tracking.
cracked
And tracking was
two
very
different
different.
days, and because not everybody can make it the same day, which was problematic. Because even though we used the click, the way we had orchestrated the tune in rehearsal didn't happen. When it was
Nope.
just me, Alan, and the drummer, we like forgot the form basically. So we just did a form that sounded good to us. And then the horns come and they're like, what the fuck's this? And we're like, what? Sounds great. And they're like, you absolutely have like a 7 bar situation here. Like there's bars missing. Like, did you not notice? This is not adding up. And we're like, it's fine. So it's like I ended up in post like putting all these crazy sounds and like backwards symbols and shit to like make it just work. Yeah.
No, it was an experience. I mean, like that's the thing. Like, all the rest of the guys in the band, we've been there for 15 years. Me and James have been playing in other groups before that. So, like, I've been playing with James for like 20 years. So going into like the studio with people we've probably known for about a year, just a little less than a year at that point, was a very big shift from what we were used to. But that's just sort of the way the band is now. I mean, if I can be completely honest, if this had been 2 years ago, this song would not have happened because somebody would have said, "Well, why are we doing something when we're under such a tight time constraint?" Or somebody would say, "Well, I don't feel like doing this." And again, it's just not because anyone was trying to necessarily be difficult, but too many cooks in the kitchen sometimes, and getting a group of people together that are really gung ho about doing stuff or willing to take some chances or just try something new.
Yeah, what do you have to lose? That's how we all felt.
And you also have the benefit of having people that have a home recording setup, which gives you the freedom to just start working on something.
Yes, I mean the timing certainly could have been a little bit better on our part because I think Jamie and Alan also had another project they're working on at the same exact time that also had a strict deadline, which was part of the issue because it was kind of like, well, we need to have this done by X date because we have to focus on this single that we're putting out in July that we've already announced, and it was it was very much like every time something would be changed, it was like, oh man, this is going to be more hours of work for for Jamie and Alan. They're going to get really mad at me, but it's at the end of the day, we found something that worked.
Friends.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it says a lot that you can get through that this early on as a group and be here today to talk about it. So,
yeah, I mean, it's one thing I've learned as a band leader over 15 years and dealing with so many people. Like, ska bands are meat grinders. At least maybe, I don't know, maybe that's just me. Like in the bands that I've been in where people sort of come in and come out. But in 15 years, the Pandemics have probably had something like probably close to 30 people in and out of the doors over the years, just from people coming in and having a very strict vision of what they wanted to do. Like like when we first did tryouts, we actually had, two other guys we also, welcomed into the band. And it's just one of those things where it's like sometimes those things don't stick. And you kind of have to feel things out and get a sense of what it's like working with each other. And for, our purposes too, like our old bass player, Will, who had been, an engineer at a studio on Long Island. So he was basically the producer and engineer for all of our work from like 2013 to 2023. So it was a big adjustment for us too. Getting used to working with somebody else. And you just want to, like, again, I try to be patient and positive just because you never know where things can go. And, even if something starts a certain way, I try not to get too attached to what an original vision is and just sort of embrace the process, as it were. At least that's always my thought. My thought is, my philosophy when, working on tunes is that, it doesn't really, whatever's in service of the tune is, what should happen. Doesn't matter, if it means, somebody else plays something or somebody else sings something, whatever works best for the tune that's going to give the best result for the tune. That's always been my philosophy on it anyway.
So when it comes to the latest album that you guys did, when we went back and we're looking at some of the songs, realized like one of my favorite songs on the album, we're like, oh, that was a single 2 years ago. Do you have a lot of songs that kind of showed up that you'd recorded earlier that showed up on this album, or did I just happen to pick the one song?
Well, this whole album was really supposed to come out probably a year before it did. And I mean, it's just to jump back to what was going on. Like at the time, I basically, October of 2023, the company I was working for went out of business. And New York City construction always kind of slows down towards the end of the year. I'm an estimator for a acoustical plaster company, and looking for a new job. It's always kind of tough between like really Halloween and the end of the year. Everybody's budgets are done. Nobody's really building all that much, and everyone's waiting for their new budgets to kick in on the first of the year. So between everything slowing down in that regard, my apartment building is sort of in the process of being sold, so not knowing when that shoe was going to drop was also kind of fun. Dealing with all that, plus the fact that now, we had half the band leaving, for various reasons. Like, I mean, one of the reasons that one of our members left was that, we decided we wanted to sort of, take more, responsibility and try and go after some of like these bigger shows or festivals that we hadn't really been able to play because we've been inactive for so long, or just we weren't really in an active space when we first, restarted things after COVID. So it was the idea of being much more active. We were going to look for a label. We were going to, try and make a real go. And, at that point, we'd been a band for, 12 years or so. And, some people, and like I said, everyone's lives had changed drastically from when they joined the band. Like everybody that left had been in the band for anywhere from 5 to like 7 or 8 years. So, I mean, some people were on board with that, and other people were just kind of like, that wasn't their priority, wasn't their goal. And, I don't have any hard feelings about any of it. Just people got to do what they got to do and what they want to do. Because this is, we're not touring, 10 months out of the year. We're not playing several hundred shows a year. We're doing this essentially for fun and for what it brings us, as out of the joy of creating and the joy of writing, which is, something actually I've always appreciated about, our guest tonight, Matt, because he's somebody whose music I've seen grow over time. And he's somebody I think who takes chances in a lot of his music. And it's something that I've always kind of admired. So getting to work with him on this project, especially when we were kind of like trying to feel out how we would round out the record, because we had originally the plan was to have a couple more tunes on it, but it's one of those things where it's like, you can't really, after people say that they're setting up a boundary, you got to respect it. And it's like, well, we had a choice. We could say, well, we put a year and a half's worth of work or so into tracking these tunes, and we can either find a way to release this, or we can just start over. And we put it, to be honest, this is some of our favorite work to date. One of the tunes on here that actually one of the ones that Matt remixed was one of the first Pandemics tunes that I wrote, like from with the help of our guitarist at the time, because I'm not good with chords, so I can write like melodies, I can write lyrics, I can write horn lines, but it was one of the first tunes that I kind of had a direct role in writing, and it got shelved. Not really my choice at the time, but after people in the previous lineups had left, not the most recent one, but I figured it was time to bring it back. So this is kind of like a big catharsis for me, like being able to sort of see something that I always thought had promise make its way into the studio. And not even that. I think it's personally, it's my favorite song on the record. And, you kind of get it three ways. And Matt took it to some very interesting places. So, I was just thrilled with, his, what he ended up doing with it.
Well,
and he could collaborate more.
respectfully, I take chances, and both of those mixes were chances. But like, I think the biggest chance was you putting these on an album. I mean, like, I like what I've done with your songs. Don't get me wrong, but like, it's bold of you. Like, I respect you guys for choosing to put a dub of a ska punk song on your ska punk album, in addition to the whatever you want to call the other one. Like, that's kind of ballsy. Like, I appreciate that.
Well, that's the thing. When you pitched the idea to me, I thought it was interesting. Like, dubbing a punk song. Who the fuck has done that? And you gave me an example. It's like, oh, well, this one King Django track, he did, I can't remember. You can tell me the name of the tune. I can't remember what it was. But
there's there's some song by The Code, and I don't remember what it's called. But I think that I don't know if I told you in these words, but in my mind, I was like, I mean, this gives me permission to do this, and it also gives me a pretty low bar to clear. This is as long as I can do better than this, because that Django dub of that song by The Code kind of sucks. And also, like, but I'm like, Django is a person that takes chances. He's one of the people I look up to like, he gives me permission to take chances. A lot of his stuff, like the Reason album, way ahead of its time, he took chances with that. And
100%.
dubbing a punk song like that, I'm like, all right, let's go.
No, I was going to say we have a few people like in our orbit, tonight that have a lot of experience with King Django and Jeff. Like Jaime and Alan played in his band for a little while too. I can't remember. They can tell you what years, but it's interesting just to see that those kind of parallels. Some coming back and forth across this record. Or just in our orbit in general. But yeah, the idea of like dubbing a punk song, I was like, who does that? And it was just really appealing to me. And then there's the other version, what I've been calling a dance remix, or what maybe I stole the label from Matt, where it just really kind of turns it on its head. And I was just floored by how well, at least in my opinion, how well it worked. And like there's just this part of it, like I kind of like the record when you listen to it, it starts and it ends on that. So it rolls back. If you're listening into a CD player that repeats the album, it kind of goes from one right into the other, and it's kind of like an interesting, like almost like a Mandela effect, because like there's parts of Matt's mix that I like listen for, and it feels weird when I don't hear them now in the original.
I think this is a good time to jump into Brain on Ska. Since you mentioned this was your favorite track before the remixes, can you tell us why that is and what the song means to you? Maybe what the inspiration is behind it?
Sure. Well, I mean, we keep on saying, without saying the name of the track. The track is called "Why Can't You Get Excited," and what it started out as was just dealing with people in all facets of life, just sort of being really apathetic towards things and really not engaging, at least with life or with whatever they were doing, in an honest way, or not allowing themselves to, experience things and have fun because, for whatever reason they couldn't fully commit or couldn't get fully engaged. And, it started off being sort of inspired by, some real life interaction, and it sort of took a turn into like, well, what should the message be? And it was one of those things where I sort of like went back and forth with it a bunch of times before I showed it to anybody back in like, oh Jesus, 2011 or so, 2012 ish time. And it's taken a lot of different shapes. At one point, it was a Rocksteady tune, which was a very weird kind of shift for it before we shelved it and eventually because we were going
Redo
through
it.
a
I
weird
want to
thing.
dub that one too.
I might be able to find a rehearsal version of it, but it's just one of those tunes where it had so much back and forth, and there were a lot of different power dynamics in the band back when we were first hitting one of the things like it's weird to say it's sort of about this, but when people, especially in a large group, want to don't want to do something, it's very easy to sort of dig your heels in and grind things to a halt. And the song, to me at least, especially now in the context of it being killed by somebody else and me having the opportunity to sort of bring it back after those people were no longer an issue, it's kind of vindicating. It's a victory lap in a way, because this is, like I said, it's my favorite song on the record. Maybe I'm tremendously biased, but I think that for me it's one of the better things that I've had a hand in writing. So I'm just thrilled that other people have been able to resonate with that and do other cool shit with that. And it's that's sort of that's my take on the tune.
I think it's a cool song too, and I got to spend like one of the cool things about remixing somebody's song is you get to spend a lot of time with it. And I don't know if I ever would have heard the words as many times as I happened to just having done two remixes of it. And I think it's a good song too, except that like I told you already like months ago that the line "prove there's legs inside your pants" is it's a little bit upsetting. It's just like a weird like icky, I don't know, that combination of words.
Yeah, it's a little well, the things we do to force a rhyme sometimes, I guess.
Rhymes with dance.
It does.
Look, there's nobody saying it doesn't rhyme with dance.
Yeah. I mean, my response at the time was like, well, we had to kind of bring it home in some way that was going to resolve, because otherwise it's like, well, why not just call it "What the fuck, Steve"? Because I mean, it's like, I mean, it wasn't about anybody named Steve or anybody in particular, really.
I
It was just
vote we change the name to "What the Fuck, Steve." Or that's the next song.
That'll be
Yeah.
the name of the Rocksteady version.
That would be good.
Matt, what would you replace those words with?
Ooh.
Oh God. Get on
Good
up and
Jess.
dance. God, you probably already, I mean, did you already use chance in that verse? Because
Nope. still on the table.
Because I put chance there before pants is all.
Yeah. In my defense, it was like 13 years ago or so.
No
I was still in my
excuse.
20s, barely.
I still like the song.
Yeah.
It's
Sure.
as I'm learning about the songs, and you said that was written 13 years ago, and we talked about another song that was written a few years ago.
Mhm.
That's interesting to me as far as the album goes, because when I listen to the album, I'm like I felt like somebody was going through something at some point in time. Like I felt originally most of the songs that really drew me in were almost written towards a person or a type of individual. Like
Does it feel
obviously-
like a concept album, sort of? Like it's all about a singular thing?
maybe, or towards people in general. Like I mean, you're looking at How's It Going, which was originally, I'm like, oh, this is cute. I'm like, this is sadder than shit. How did I think this was cute the first time I heard it? Because you're like, and I love you. I'm like, oh, and then I started listening more. I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna cry listening to this fucking song. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And then why can't you get excited? Really, I'm like, there's somebody in somebody's life that just was that like Debbie Downer who you didn't want to take to the party to watch them take their legs in their pants and dance, or I was trying to help and I just made it sound like one of Matt's pornos. I'm so sorry.
You say that there are legs inside your pants, but can you prove it?
And then I think one of my favorites, that's one that I really enjoyed, was Reject, Reset, Repeat. And that definitely is, I mean, I guess is that towards, did you write that one, Chris? I guess that would be my first question.
I wrote, well, with the exception of the cover, I wrote the lyrics to all the tunes on this record.
So was that written towards, with somebody in mind, or is it a conceptual person?
For Reject, Reset, Repeat?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things where I don't really like to write specific songs with people. It does happen sometimes, but it's more just trying to capture a state of mind or an emotion, really. So that one, actually, I remember I wrote that. There was a series of concerts in New York City called the Apple Stomp that Asbestos Records put together with Live Nation. Jesus Christ, probably about 2012, 2013 or so, if I remember correctly. The second one was it was supposed to be at Irving Plaza, and I guess they didn't sell enough tickets or something, but they ended up losing their venue like a week before the show, and there were plenty of bands that had already bought plane tickets, like Slow Gherkin played, and I Voted for Kodos played. I was filling in for them that weekend. And somewhere in my haste to get to, they had a rehearsal like the day of the show, like just sort of run over tunes. And the haste of getting to the rehearsal, I had handed my wife my car keys because she was taking the car to visit her dad in New Jersey, and I had forgotten that my apartment keys were on the key ring. So after the gig, thankfully I found somebody to crash with. But the next day my wife wasn't coming back until like Sunday night. So I remember just being like sitting in a coffee shop trying to kill time. A small bag of a shirt I had bought the night before at the show, and my trombone with me. So I was just sort of like killing time at a Starbucks or something, or a coffee shop somewhere. And I just the melody popped into my head, and I started writing to that. And it was just one of those things, was like, well, there are all these things that, we're conditioned to think and to believe. And there's this image of happiness that we're all, everyone's trying to sell us on. Usually it's to sell us more shit. But it's one of those things where it's like, you have to sort of take knowledge of that and be cognizant of that fact and realize, things aren't necessarily what's going to make you happy. Being like the people in the magazines it's a fantasy. It's shallow. It's skin deep. They don't tell you about, the shitty parts of their lives. So it's kind of like, it's about being honest. It's about being real with yourself and your motivations. And, that's basically the long and short of it. Just, you have to, every once in a while, you got to sort of take into account, like, what's going on. Like, fuck now, like just listening to like the news on a daily basis with, this fucking shit going wrong, or, Jesus Christ, you could write a whole dozen concept albums on just the two Trump administrations alone.
This is true.
But it's like, you have to sort of realize, there's a art, or not art, I guess it's a skill, being able to parse out what the media is telling you, what reality is telling you, what all these things are, and realizing, like, maybe bombing children is not a good thing, or not socially, or even if it's socially acceptable, it shouldn't be, in regards to like the situation in Gaza. And it's like, there'll be people from all corners of the internet trying to tell you why it's acceptable, why it has to be done. And you kind of have to be able to sort of say, no, these are things that I believe, this is good, this doesn't matter. And you sort of reorientate yourself to, sort of be able to survive in reality. Because otherwise you just sort of, it's very easy to get washed away in a stream of bullshit, or be twisted around to the point where you don't even know you're you anymore. I'm rambling, so if you want to stop me at any point, anybody.
No, feel free. You're answering.
See right there, I stopped myself and I reoriented. uh, but yeah, I mean, I wrote that just like I said, it was just sort of one of those things where it's like I realized, like, man, I'm stuck. I'm gonna be in so much, doo doo because I have all this stuff I gotta get done for work. I'm like, you know what? No, you need to just live in the moment. You went to a great show last night. You had a great time. Whatever difficulties will be, you'll be able to handle it. You'll adjust. And you just have to sort of like just appreciate what you have, appreciate where you are. Just to touch back on the one you mentioned before, Hey, how's it going? Started off as a song I wrote while I was on tour. One of the first tours Pandemics did. It's a song originally I wrote for my wife because, we were living together and I hadn't really gone away for an extended period of time, since we had started dating, and I was gone for like 2 weeks. And it was one of those things where it's like, trying to deal with the idea that she's not happy about the fact that I'll be gone for so long, and trying to come to terms with those ideas, that idea of that loneliness, and those, balance idea that, yeah, I may be doing what I'm what I really want to do, but trying to sort of balance that with what I'm missing at home. And eventually that tune evolved from that point where I first wrote it to be something that I extended to my daughter as well. And I used to sing her to sleep with that tune every night until she was about, 3. So she still knows all the words to it, which is actually kind of amazing. Kids are sponges, as I'm sure you guys know at that age.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, that's sort of been this record is sort of a collection of, various tunes, and it worked on by a lot of people, a lot of really talented people. Many of them near and dear friends. I mean, we have people from all sorts of bands, like Vic is somebody I played with in Pilfers for a number of years. He's still with them. Vinny is our former bass player, who was credited with writing on 2 of the tunes, is the bass player from the Doom Stompers now, who just plays Supernova. The drummer on the record, Cat Stock, plays for Rude Girl Review. So, I mean, we have friends and family all over, and they all brought something really unique to the table. And being able to find myself surrounded by, such wonderful people is, something extraordinary when looked at, especially in retrospect. So this tune, like I said, this record is kind of like just a collection of all those experiences and all those tunes. And some of them, like you said, are released as singles. Some of them were intentionally released singles for this record. Some of them, like Killing Time, was a single we did on a 7-inch in 2017 that never really got an official album release. So we said, you know what, this one deserves a home too. Also, we only had, a handful of tunes, so anything we could do to pad it out to an album was, definitely welcomed. And honestly, there are a couple more tunes that didn't make it just because we didn't have a chance to record them, but they'll be on the next one. And we're hoping, especially with Jaime and Alan and Jay, to be able to get back into the studio sometime, maybe around year's end or so. Maybe do an EP, so that we can follow this one up, more than once every 10 years,
Matt, I assume you've listened to the whole album already. Is that correct?
Why would you do that to him in case you hadn't?
No, I
mean,
have. You're good. I
I knew
have.
you had.
Chris sent it to me a while ago. Yeah.
Do you have any favorite tracks that you would like Chris to talk about?
I feel like it's a little bit of a cop out, but I think Dub the Bullshit, the Agent J dub song is my favorite, partly because I think it's awesome that you got Jay to do like a respectable dub. It's a nice, and it's between my 2 remixes, right? So it's like a cleanser, palette cleanser.
Well, I figured it would probably be best not to, play the same song potentially 3 times in a row if you're going to restart the record, if it rolls over or something. But yeah, the Agent J thing was, we wanted to do a tune with Jay for a while because he was doing, like, he always, when he's home from tour, offers to mix bands and stuff like that. And most of our stuff really didn't lend itself to dub before this record. Like if you go back, like we have, more heavier ska punk tunes, we have a couple tunes that are more bouncy, but not really much that's, straight up reggae that would sound good, all, groovy and, distorted and dubified. So when we finally had one, we sent him off, the version of it straight out of the gate, and he came back, and he did a very respectable job the first pass around, but we kind of had some other ideas about different like lines of lyrics we wanted highlighted and stuff like that. And it was a bit of a tug of war, but Jay's like, well, if you start adding stuff, it's less like a dub and more like just an alternate remix, and there's a philosophy to that. It's less is more, most of the time. But I think that was a very happy medium we kind of came to, and I thought it sounded great.
I thought I was going to change it up a little bit, and I don't usually bring up a cover song for Brain on Ska, but I was curious why you chose to cover the Dead Kennedys' Holiday in Cambodia. What does that song mean to you, and why was it chosen?
Well, when we were first starting out, the Pandemics was very different than it is today. We kind of, I started this project working with a couple of friends who were in another band called the Haberdashers way back when. And, they were a band out of Five Towns College on Long Island. And, Paul, our tenor sax player, was in that band. And basically, we kind of like, I had like a skeleton crew of people that, hadn't really formed a full band yet. And we kind of absorbed the Haberdashers. So they brought a bunch of tunes in. And I very quickly realized that their guitarist, who became our guitarist, guy Brian Kennedy, is, one of the most talented people I've ever met. He would show up every week with like half a dozen tunes fully scored out for the entire band to play. And it was, intimidating at first because I am not a classically trained musician at all. I am a self-taught trombonist. I had lessons going up till about ninth grade, I think. So, I mean, like I'm not a professional musician. We also had like 3 music teachers in the band at the time too. So it was kind of intimidating to step into that a little bit. But, Brian had kind of an affinity for, 70s and 80s punk rock. And basically, he loved everything from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Kind of felt like anything after like 92, he could kind of like give or take. He didn't really like I think his affinity for like 90s ska kind of ended at the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones, let's face it. And he, we did a Boss Tones cover set one year. I mean, he was like a workhorse. He really kind of cranked stuff out. But it's just one of those things. We were doing bar gigs. We were doing 3-hour sets at that point, all of us in our early and mid 20s. And that was a tune, I always wanted to do Specialized because I did it when I used to be in Bigger Thomas. They did like the second iteration for the English beat. And, I was like, oh, that'd be really cool to participate in that with, my own project one day. And when we eventually got the opportunity, I was like, well, I pitched the idea to the band that we had, the lineup we had now. I said, look, we already have charts for this one. The people that have to learn it, it's really not much to learn. The horn section of the band itself had been, the horn section for, at that point, 10 years. So we were all rock solid on it already. And I mean, that's one of the things about the old guard. The old guard was like, well, why are we doing all these comps? It's really kind of expensive. In their defense, they were right. I mean, it was money being spent on what was going to be a charitable endeavor. We're not being paid for stuff like this, but that's part of being in community with the scene around you. It's sometimes you do cool shit like this, and maybe it ends up in front of the right person and brightens their day. And it was just like, it was something that I said was going to be kind of a gimme. It was going to be easy for us to do. Our bassist at the time, Vinny Carrero, was a huge fan of 70s and 80s hardcore punk. Like and it's weird because he's like 10 years younger than I am. So he was born in like the 90s. I was like, I didn't quite get the fascination and connection he had with it, but it was like something like that was his bread and butter. He lived and breathed this stuff. And I think he currently, like, he has Doom Stompers. I think he's out on the road with Public Serpents every now and again now. But it was something he saw, like our song was like, oh, you guys do this tune? I'm like, not in a while, but it'd be easier enough for us to pick it up and do it. And when the opportunity presented itself with the following iteration of the band, I was like, well, look, all of us except for two people have done it. So just we'll do it real quick. We'll knock it out, and it'll be something we can take care of in an afternoon. And lo and behold, it was. I guess the people at Specialized liked it so much they started using it to promote the that version of the record. I guess there was a radio station that sponsors the comp every year, Wolfman Radio or something like that. And they gave it a bunch of spins and people liked it. And the same thing kind of happened with our contribution this year. And again, I got to credit Jaime on this one because he really knocked it out of the park on the vocals. I have many talents, but being able to get into that register and pay tribute to Alanis Morissette that's not one of them. He knocked it out of the park. But yeah, that was sort of it was just one of those things where it had to be happenstance because you have to judge the group of people you're with and know what they're going to want to do and what they're not going to want to do. And in regards to that tune, it's well, this is a compromise. We get to do the comp because I want to do the comp, but it's not a lot of work because most of us already know. We don't have to waste a lot of time in the studio, and it's it's an old school punk tune. It's not like we're learning Dream Theater or anything like that. It was fairly low intensity in terms of cramming and such. And I thought it came out pretty good, and we liked it so much we decided to put it on the record too. So just one of those things we picked up as we rolled along, I guess.
And Matt, you recently have put out an album too. If you didn't, I think Justin's, but I have had the opportunity to spend 20 hours or so in a car with Matt over the course of 2 days.
Yeah, before and after Supernova.
Yeah. So two things that I experienced was Waffle House twice.
Yeah,
My first two experience of Waffle House was with Matt.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Thank you. And I will never look at hash browns the same way ever again. And then also, though, I got to hear the story behind Dickie Barrett being on one of these songs on your new album. So if you wouldn't mind letting everyone know the album of that just came out and share a little bit of that story. You don't have to do the hour and a half version that you told me about it, maybe. But
so yes, my album is called Mericannia. It's got a bunch of people on it, and one of them is Dickie Barrett. And
isn't Chris on that album too?
Yes. So here's the story behind that song. So I started writing that song, and it's a little bit about Dickie Barrett, and it's also about the way that our culture likes to separate people and isolate people, and it's kind of like I don't agree with Dickie Barrett's political views, but I don't agree with the way that he was kind of isolated from his community either. And so I wrote this song about him, and I also cannibalized some parts of the impression that I get. And so I had this all together, and the album was finished. And actually, well, I had Chris sing just the word "I" and to copy the impression that I get, because Chris is a Boss Tones fan, and I'm like, this would be cool, just as to honor the Boss Tones thing, to just and I felt bad because Chris, there's 20 something guests, and Chris had the tiniest guest spot, the least, it's almost it's so small it's almost a joke, Yeah. And so the album is done, and I submit it to streaming already, and I have the ability to contact Dickie Barrett because he was on my podcast. And I'm like, you know what? I should let him know that the song is coming out, and I'll send it to him. And he didn't care for it at first. He was kind of upset. He thought I was attacking him. He thought I was taking shots at him, and I didn't have the guts to say it. He thought it was disrespectful that I helped myself to his hit song. And I spent an afternoon, I wasn't really trying to defend myself, and because what can I do? If he kind of has a right to be I was like, hey, I don't know how it looks from your perspective, but all I can tell you is where I was coming from. And he was telling me about the ways that you can write songs to be more clear, and it's kind of songwriting advice, criticism, but songwriting advice from Dickie Barrett. And it felt really unwelcome because of the manner in which it was intended, I think. So it was a very surreal afternoon I had. And but then I started to figure out that like I think that he just wanted to make sure that things like his reputation wasn't going to possibly get worse from this. Which I mean, I guess it's debatable if it's worse being on a Matt Wixson record, but he wanted to make sure that I wasn't I wasn't making things worse for him. And so like when I figured out that that's kind of what he seemed to be interested in, I was like, well, look, if you're worried about how people are going to interpret it, like what if you join the song? Like this wasn't the plan, obviously. I've already submitted this to streaming and everything. But like, what if you just joined the song and showed everybody that like we both know that this is not an anti-Dickie Barrett song? And for some reason, he was like, "What would you want me to do?" And then I gave him a couple of ideas, and the next day he sent me both of the ideas that I gave him. And it was the whole thing was surreal, and I couldn't have done it on purpose if I'd tried.
And,
Still feels surreal a month later.
yeah.
And yeah, and Chris got the elevated from like the almost joke cameo to he's the guy on the song with Dickie Barrett now.
That is awesome.
Yeah, I mean it's easy, and I think Matt's dead on about that too. I mean the way a lot of it sort of our discourse sort of revolves around this idea of good faith and bad faith criticism, and it's there's a lot to disagree with when it comes to somebody who holds political views you don't necessarily agree with or something maybe you even vehemently oppose. But there are certain ways to honestly approach a situation. It's okay to be upset with somebody for legitimate reasons, but we have a way as a culture of just when we're mad at somebody, we want to decimate them by any means necessary. And sometimes, the way we handle those situations kind of reflects on us as, the people lobbing the criticisms or the people doing the judging or the people ostracizing or trying to separate this member of the community. And, I mean, he's always been kind of a character in our scene, but I mean, I will say this, for Dickie Barrett, my interactions with him have always been pleasant. And I can acknowledge and respect that
I
the man
can't
is
even say that. Like,
Not recently, at least.
Yeah.
again, I'm not here to shade him, but it was a difficult time. I had a couple of unpleasant interactions with him.
That's fair. I mean,
Well, you
I've had a
shouldn't have wrote shit about him, and maybe
But I know. Look, I'm not. I got more than I deserved from the whole thing. Like he should have. Like, he had every right to call me on my little punk ass shit. Like, I get it, but
yeah. I mean, I think at the end of the day, I mean, I look back at I know I used to go to the hometown throwdown every year. He helped raise tens of thousands of dollars for charity over the year in and year for charities, plural, year in and year out. I mean, at the end of the day, you look around the kitchen table at Thanksgiving, and we're all just bags of broken goods and some bad, and it's I'm not rationalizing or excusing anything, but there's a certain level of holier than thou that sometimes comes out, especially in interactions online when you're not facing the person face to face, and some of that stuff is I think it's fair to say some of that stuff isn't necessarily the right way to deal with stuff like that. If there's a right or wrong way to deal with it, I couldn't tell you exactly what it is, but it's like Matt Wixson's porn tape. I don't know what porn is, but I know when I see it or don't see it because of the filter on Zoom. Yeah. But anyways,
I think, I say, Matt, with your when you guys interviewed Dickie, I think you guys brought up a good point that sometimes people get canceled because they have one thought or one thing they stand for, and all of a sudden we put them in a group with, you know, with 1,000 other beliefs that they may or may not have, because they didn't. I'm making this up. I'm not trying to hit a hot spot, but like, ooh, they didn't want to get vaccinated, so ooh, they must be Trump supporters who are Nazis, or whatever the case may be. People start to connect the dots that sometimes aren't there.
I think that like
I went extreme on that one as far as my
no, I
example.
think that like for the past 10, well, maybe a little bit more years, like I think that Obama winning the presidency ignited something in like mainstream liberals where it became common to just think of, if you have liberal ideas, you are the victor and you are the winner and everybody else is the outsider. And no matter how you're the outsider now, you're all the outsiders are the same. And that doesn't really, that's sort of how churches work. That's sort of how right-wing organizations work.
Mhm.
It's not a healthy development for mainstream liberalism. So now, yeah, it looks to the point where like no matter what reason it is, if you are an anti-vax person, that reads as Republican, and Republican is assumed to be a white supremacist. And so therefore Dickie Barrett is a white supremacist. And that's not how that works in the real world.
Mhm.
Agreed.
I mean, it's yeah. I mean, I think Matt hit it pretty squarely on the head. Is that it's really easy to throw people you disagree with into one bucket or another, and it's there's a whole dearth of nuance that gets lost in some cases. And again, I'm not trying to excuse anything. Everyone's free to come to their own conclusions about where that line should be. Uh, I mean, me and Matt are kind of like two birds of a feather. I think we're both fairly left of where
What'd you
the
call
modern
me?
Democratic Party is. Bird? I don't know. But yeah, we're both, I think, a little further left than the most mainstream, centrist Democrats are. So it's been an interesting perspective to have. I think some of Matt's album alludes to some of those perspectives, especially on things like the Trump administration's attempts to deport people to El Salvadorian death camps, uh, just because they posted a mean thing or happened to have their green card lapse or say something the administration doesn't like, or you pick your over the top thing, because it's
I,
it's 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 very easy to get angry. It's very easy to sort of say everybody that supports this one thing supports the other.
I
So
just I think that I have a prediction that I'm the only person putting El Salvador in that context into a song. I don't think anybody else is gonna, it's not on the radar of anybody. If it's not out now, and it's not, nobody else has. It's not going to be. So
yeah,
I did
I mean,
I got that going for me. I've
I
dated
mean,
myself with that reference, I think.
yeah, I mean, Jesus Christ, who will remember, Kilmar Abrego Garcia in like 4 years' time? Who knows if we'll have an election in 4 years' time? I mean, there's a lot of unknowns out there.
But at the same time, like I idolize in a couple of ways at least the folk singer Phil Oakes, who wrote songs like the Ballad of William Worthy, who was a like it was a communist rallying point at it probably for a couple of weeks in the 60s. And nobody remembers it now, but like it's memorialized in this man's discography. And it I definitely don't intend to add to this canon of things that are definitely news items that don't, like, you're not going to know what that means in a year, let alone 10.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of the things that comes with this territory, I suppose. I
Yeah.
don't know.
In
I think
any
that, like, I mean, even as a solo artist, when I made an album like the album I just made, I was a little bit concerned that it's like nobody contributing had heard any of the other songs. And I was like I haven't I haven't talked to Dickie Barrett about how my album as a whole sounds to him, because I don't know if he's gonna like it. Like he might not like the politics of the album that he's decided to sing on. And I kind of had that concern with a lot of like so far
In
nobody's
your
been like,
defense, you did warn us
okay,
before. You really put a disclaimer before
Yeah,
did
true.
before
I?
we sent you
Yeah.
anything. You're like, I don't know if this will help you in life.
Well, that's a different disclaimer because I come with baggage. It's not that's unrelated to the political content. Uh, so thank you for allowing me to be your baggage.
I personally got a chance during a 10-hour drive with Matt to experience his songwriting process and to be part of him writing a song on the road. So that
I,
was
I
Didn't
honestly
he play it live that night?
I played it
he,
live. Yeah.
he
I
did.
wrote a song on Thursday, the day after my album came out. So my album came out on the 9th of September. And
Okay.
on the 10th of September, old what's his name stuck his neck out and caught a bullet in it. And then on Thursday, we were driving into Virginia and we pulled over to a rest stop and I wrote a song about about and then I played it that night. And
Yeah.
I don't think I mean it seems like nobody gives a shit about him anymore. So I guess I probably could post it now, but like for a little while it looked like you could not get away with saying anything about him. So I didn't really want to keep that song on the books, but
Yeah.
I think it wasn't as God, what's the word for it? Irreverent as it was. I don't think it wasn't like disrespectful. It was irreverent. It was about a guy spreading a lot of hate and then spraying a lot of blood.
Yeah.
And it was a sing along. The crowd participated. Um, and so like I feel like it was justified, but more than anything, it was a stunt. It was something that I could just like no bands don't get to show this off. And this is I think it was the second or third time I've been able to play a song like the day that I wrote it at a show. And so it was a cool little stunt to be
Yeah.
like here and again with the El Salvador reference like Charlie Kirk doesn't fucking even matter to Republicans now. So I'm not sure I don't think it's gonna even be a talking point in the future. I feel like
Okay.
America has two main driving forces. One of them is a pretty extreme and violent and evil egomania, and the other is fucking making $1 off of anything.
Yeah.
And the Republican Party is such a confluence of both of those impulses right now. It's so bad.
Yeah. I mean, and just completely devoid of truth or honesty or even just your basic knowledge of you know U.S. history. I mean, going back as far as like, I mean, I read, for the first time, I've been telling myself I read it for years, Howard Zinn's A People's History of the United States. And, it left me at points just like violently angry. Like if I hadn't been reading it or listening to it as an audiobook, I would have thrown my phone across the room. Like that kind of level of anger at, what was done in the early years. This quietly gets swept under the rug. But the same people who think they're defending the homeland for, that is stolen land, which is, hypocrisy doesn't work on these people. And for some reason, like, I don't know when the scales kind of turned where, up is down, left is right, cats and dogs living together. It just sort of like make it all make sense. Like we were just talking about Spotify, over the course of the last couple of days and how they're now running ads for, for ICE, which is, par for the course.
On top of investing hundreds of millions of dollars in AI weaponry.
Yes. And their CEO basically being like the chairman of the board of that company and partnering with a company that, makes weapons that were deployed in Gaza. The Rhine Metal, I think, was the name of the company. And it's like, you really up in arms. It's like, well, all right, we're not going to do that, and then we could listen to this and that. And I remember seeing an article that Al actually pointed out to me this way. It's like they're doing this on all the other platforms too, and I'm like, really? And I Google it, like, oh shit, Pandora, YouTube. It's like it falls back to actually something like there is no ethical consumption under capitalism. Is basically what it comes back to.
So what if we have a nationalized streaming service, comrades? Let's talk about it.
It needs to just become all nonprofits. All nonprofits. That's the way. No, it's all nonprofits. That's the solution.
All nonprofits or all just run by a vanguard party? Like, just I don't. Let's just.
I mean, I'm down for a
do
PBS
Maoism.
kind
I
of
don't
streaming
care.
service.
Yeah, yeah. Like how hard would it be? I mean, both of you guys must know, like separately and together, like how easy it is to submit to 50 streaming services with a
Yeah.
song. How hard would it be to choose a 51 and it's like the U.S. Postal Service streaming service?
Yeah.
And now we pay $11 to the Postal Service and they distribute the exact same songs that Spotify does. Like that'd be fucking great. I just invented something, by the way. I've never heard anybody suggest a
I
nationalized.
feel it'd be that sounds like a
streaming
mail
service,
order, a mail order streaming service. Just so you know.
Well, I mean,
I did say in our
maybe
chat-
not find a different department, a Department of Agriculture. Then I don't care.
I
Like,
did say in our band chat earlier, it was like if we could have like the Reddit or Wikipedia of streaming services, like where everybody
Well, no, that's archive.org. Archive.org.
I was gonna say, like that's kind of what Archive is,
that is kind of like archive, but like with a twist.
but it doesn't have the UI that like
No, I know.
Spotify has. And regrettably, Spotify has an incredible user experience. And that's what fucking sucks about it, is that it's really easy to stick with Spotify.
It is.
Oh
I
yeah.
don't use it. I don't know.
Good for
I
you.
used to-
I only upload my podcast on it because I had no choice. I mean, I had a choice, but
So you're an Apple user, is what you're telling us.
yeah,
Well, I mean,
which is only somewhat better, I guess.
I'm not sure how it is for podcasts, but like as an artist, like when you have, they set this rule like a year or two ago, where they don't pay you like dime one unless your song has like 1,000 plays in a year or whatever have you, or some sort of arbitrary time limit. And like, so if you have like 999 plays on like a 10-song record, every song is 999, you're not seeing dime one. Though to be fair, and if you get like that 1,000th play, it's like $2. It's
Right.
not a lot. It's not a lot of money.
I was
at
gonna
all.
joke. Once you cross 1,000 plays, you get literally dime one.
Yeah.
Dime.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like we put up with any number of like there's the weapons thing, there's the criminal exclusion. I guess for them, it's like, well, we have to have like an army of accountants probably do all the taxes and paperwork and all this shit. It's like, well, then don't be in the fucking music distribution business. Then that's your fucking business. But it's like I used to what's called run and I say used to because it's sort of been on hiatus since I had a kid, but a playlist called the best ska bands you've never heard of, because Spotify, for all of its faults, had a distribution deal, I guess, with CD Baby or whoever first, and they sourced just so much obscure bullshit from all corners of the globe, and it just had more of a catalog and that you could dig through, and it stinks because I mean, if you want access to that, it's literally driving traffic to these same people that are trying to shove ads for ice down your fucking throats. And it's like, well, who's the better option? There really isn't one. It just brings us back to the whole, nonprofit. And there's probably a nonprofit and, ska band, what profit kind of joke in there somewhere. But it's, like, what are your options? And I mean, there really aren't any. And that's sort of like, kind of leads back to the way I sort of run the band at this point. Because it's like, we've done the touring thing. We've done, the, looking for a label thing. And at this point, I'd rather just write songs that we like about things that we like to write about and do them as best we can. And if, we make it a buck, cool. If we don't, well, then it's just another fucking Tuesday. It's not really why we do things. If you're looking to make money, this is like the most ass backwards way to do it on the planet. I love it, and that's why I do it. I couldn't say what the motivations are of everybody, but I mean, at the end of the day, I would rather my art not be used to recruit people into the Gestapo? I mean, I mean, and not even paid for it either. And I think that's sort of like what people sort of take for granted. That's a place like Spotify. Well, if we didn't do it, we would be losing out on, our maybe $12 a year or whatever. But at the end of the day, one of the nice things about Spotify is that you can find all that shit. Like you could go to any of these other platforms that hardly anyone uses. But I mean, one of the things about, going to Spotify is that they have that selection. They have that. And again, I'm an odd man out. I wouldn't be playing ska music if I thought that my opinion on popular anything mattered. So it's kind of like, I understand that even for outsiders that listen to this music that I love, I'm kind of an outsider in that regard. But it's just like, what are the incentive structures? Why are we doing this? And did we get a say in anything at any point? I mean, you don't have control over much, but you can control where you play. You can control how your music's distributed. But it's like I said. I mean, right now there are no good options. So I mean, it's a tough thing. I mean, I think it probably only takes one domino to fall to sort of like set something else in motion, because it's a common thing. The podcast people, at least for the people I've talked to, are not happy with how Spotify treats them, especially if they had copyright music on their podcasts, which I know you guys maybe can
I've
speak
had
to.
a few episodes that were taken down, regardless of my appeals.
Yep. You're not alone. I mean, there's a lot of them.
YouTube hasn't taken any down. They've warned me, but they haven't taken any down yet. Knock on wood.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure about Apple because, like I said, I just started there.
YouTube's a little interesting because I think they have their content ID system. I mean, they will literally pay somebody else with your engagement if they can.
Uh-huh.
But it's I'm not sure how the others justify it. And but it's thing, nobody's happy with these systems except the person that's making all the fucking money. But what can we as people do about it? I mean, the only real power we have is with our purse and our feet and where we spend our money. And until enough people get together, nothing's going to change. And I guess that's probably the same thing about politics, the same thing about everything. I don't know. It's getting to be that philosophical kind of night.
We're gonna go. We have to wake up early. It's been real.
Before they go,
They
you
do
guys
have
actually have a big
music
show coming out.
plans.
Well, we're doing a soundtrack for Matt Wixson's new porno, Maddie Does Michigan. It's premiering at the Stonewall Inn in New York in 2027. So we'll talk about that project and many others.
But yeah, no, definitely, we'd love to talk about stuff.
You guys have the show at Mother Pugs, though, don't you? With a little.
We're playing. Yeah, go for it.
I'm so tired. We're playing with the Slackers.
I saw that.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it's Staten Island, believe it or not, where nobody ever goes except us. We're the only ska band on Staten Island, so they had no choice.
Little known fact, though, that Joker's Republic music video is filmed at Mother Pugs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you see it in the background, giant Mother Pugs logo.
Nice.
All right, good.
Cool. Peace.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So speaking of shows, Chris, I think you have some shows you should promote. Maybe your album release shows coming up.
Yes, we've got two of them. It's weird because they're two very different shows. The first one is on Halloween, and it is at a bar called Bar Frida in Ridgewood, Queens, and it is not really a ska show, so it's a little bit different than the usual lumping all the horns with the bands with the horns and the upbeats together kind of.
I love mixed genre shows. I actually try to only put on mixed genre shows, to be honest with you.
Cool. Yeah, I mean it's got a lot of. I mean, it's sort of, we have a couple of odd Venn diagrams we cross with a couple other New York City bands. Like two of our members are really into we're good friends with World Inferno Friendship Society, and they kind of pulled us into that scene a little bit at various points. Like we did one of the last Hollow Mass shows, I guess the 20th one, at the Warsaw in Brooklyn with World Inferno, and they, since their singer Jack Terrycloth passed away, the Faithful kind of do like a celebration every year right around Halloween in New York City. and they this year, we were lucky enough to be able to find they were actually headlining at the Halloween show at Bar Frida this year, and that's part of that scene, which is really cool. It's with a lot of bands we've played with over the years. We haven't seen in a while, and a couple other bands on tour. Like there's one from California, I think called the Blue Feather Effect or something like that. There's another one called the Skirts from Pennsylvania or Philadelphia rather, like a three-piece punk band. Taillight Rebellion, who are just chronically on tour all the time, bouncing from place to place. Telomeres, which is Matt Dallow, formerly of World Inferno's new project. So it'll be a good time. And then the following one on the 8th is, we originally started out in Long Island before, everyone sort of moved out to the city. So we're playing at, our local, or formerly local haunt, the Mr. Beery's, with a bunch of ska bands. We're playing with a band called Nonstop the Cairo from Long Island, who've been around just as long as us, and somehow we've never played together. So that'd be fun. Be Decent, which it's funny enough, my first Jimmy Doyle, the singer of Be Decent, was in my first band ever way back in like 1998. So it's cool to be able to sort of do a show with him at the bar we played our first show way back then. And also the Scrub Ups, who used to be called Barbicide, features the ex-members of Mephistopheles doing their thing, and they're doing an interesting thing where they've incorporated a lot of like acoustic instruments. They've got a lap steel guitar player now. They've got, I think, a banjo. It's going to be interesting to see them since the last time we played with them was probably about 2 years ago, and they had a lot of did a big change after their former drummer passed away. Michael Reich was also a former member of Mephistopheles. So we're looking forward to both of these shows. It'll be a good way to close out the year. And just we're excited to, like I said, we're excited to sort of be moving forward. And we have another big announcement that we'll be making the same day as the record drops. We're playing This Is Not Croydon Fest 7 this year. We're really excited about that. We were asked once in the past, and just the band being where it was at the time, we couldn't really swing it. So I'm really, thankful that, Jeremy, we sent him a copy of the new record early to check it out. And he's like, yeah, let me know if you guys want to play, we'll figure out something out. And we'll be playing, I think, on the Friday. So we're really excited about that.
It is my favorite festival.
It is my
I think I go
favorite
to every year.
festival.
It was the first one I traveled to go. I'm going from Michigan to Philly to see this show years ago,
and it's literally 13 minutes from my house, so it's in my backyard.
Or 13 hours from mine. I don't know.
So I'm always excited that my friends are all coming to see me.
I just realized you guys aren't from the same place, are you?
No,
I didn't realize that.
No, I'm from Philly. He's from Michigan.
Okay.
But they all come to see me, and then I realized I'm like, oh shit, now they all want to stay with me. I think, how many did I have stay with me last year?
You might want to be careful and cut part of this before you start talking about people staying with you.
Yeah, there's a whole band staying with us this year. There's 7 in the band, so.
Taught me how to smile. It dances
one of my goals for a long time was to go to Japan too, because I've been before on tour with one of my old bands, and it's been interesting. So I've been talking almost with Matt, with other people too, but about like bands from Japan for a long time.
I mean, I've seen your post.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I do have a bit of a reputation, I guess.
We had Chris on Hornpod to tell us the story about Tokyo Ska Paradise
Yeah, I might have listened to that though.
because nobody in America, I think nobody in the Anglosphere knows that band like Chris does.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I mean, there are a few people like that I would consider bigger fans than I am. Like I think Rafael Frias from just Sky Jazz
Messengers.
Yep. He's probably a slightly bigger fan or maybe more traditionalist than I am.
I mean, John Roy is a fan as well.
Yep.
Like they've got fans, obviously, but
yeah, it's kind of like my one thing that I'm obsessed with. Like that one band that I have to follow everything, collect everything, and I've fallen off because it's been a lean couple of years. But like, I took a picture once of like all the CDs, like of every album, not every single, but like every album, like laid out on my bed from like the top of the bed to the bottom. I mean, I'd say it's not quite unhealthy. I thought it was unhealthy until
I thought the nudity in that photo was tasteful, Chris.
Well, I angled the CD just right. But I thought it was, I thought
bold of you to use the 12-inch where you did.
Oh,
but in 2019 they came and they did a gig at the Sony Theater or whatever it was in Times Square in Manhattan, and there was a group of Japanese expats, and there's a large Japanese expat community in New York City. Like there's one in LA, there's one in New York, and I'm assuming one in DC. But they, a bunch of people, like we were just hanging out outside the doors, waiting for everybody to leave, and it was nice because Pandemics have opened for them twice in New York, which is like used to be like a thing we could say, well, only we did in the US, up until like Catbite and Kill Lincoln, I guess, got Hey Smith to bring them on tour, and they did like the Ska Ramble dates with them over there, which was good. I'm thrilled for them, but it was, well, in that time, I thought my obsession was pretty serious. But after the gig, I was talking to a few Japanese people, people in their like late 30s. It can be a little hard to tell sometimes with Japanese people. They age very well. But like they came out and like they had their Uber Blacks outside, to go to the hotel wherever they were going, like big like Escalade looking cars, and just this one guy starts just screaming "Gamo, Gamo," and like did like the Beatles kind of treatment, like running over and trying to mob the band and like pull things off of their bodies, like. And I was just like staring because there's like 6 people on the street. There's only like a great gang of 6 people, and the band outnumbered these people. But it was just so weird seeing someone else do that. Well, not someone else. I've never done that, but seeing that happen to a ska band of gentlemen in their 50s and 60s, halfway around the world, like because it's just such a different world for them. Like they're a top 40 band in Japan in some regards. I mean, they're not like
they're
pop
a mainstream act, yeah.
And it's like odd to see that expressed in New York when it's so strange. It was just so foreign to ska music, at least now. Well, I mean, even at the peak of ska music, I don't know if anyone ever did that, but it was like I was like, I'm not as bad as I thought. I've just been exposed to a whole new level of ska para fan. That's something to reflect on. But yeah, I mean, all these but anyways, what I was saying, one of these bands, a friend of mine, offered us basically saying, look, I'd love to book you a tour for 5 days. I'm involved with this big festival. And it's not like a huge festival, but it's I went in 2019 and it was, a pretty big club, packed out, maybe about 1,200 people, pretty good. And they said, we can get you a good spot on this and we'll book you shows on everything and we'll support you, as your support act for a handful of days because I guess they really like the record. And just the idea of thinking that now is like, well, I may have to move right before or right after this happens. And the new record right now is just so busy, and I don't have a passport that's current anymore. It's lapsed because COVID. I didn't think to renew it because I wasn't planning on going anywhere. Um, like 30 things have got to line up to make that happen, and I have time to deal with exactly none of them right now. And all this shit's going to probably be handled like 6 months in advance if you wanted to have a shot at happening. So it seems like a pipe dream at this point, at least for this year anyway. But it's been kind of satisfying to see like all the bands that I was hyping up and talking about like a decade ago. They're slowly starting to catch on with bands like Millington and Half Past Two and all these other bands are finally making the trip out there because the yen is just so weak compared to the dollar right now. Like when I went for the first time in 2011, it was like you were getting 84 yen to a dollar, and right now it's like around 135, 140. So it's it's a good time to go if you got the money. But it still costs probably about $750 to $1,200 round trip airfare, depending on how you go, when you go.
Jess,
Still
is
going.
that in our budget? Can we plan a trip?
I was just thinking the same thing. Like, can we go to Japan?
It's not as hard as you might think it might be with the language barrier. I mean, especially in the major cities, all the train announcements are in English. Being able to have a smartphone at your side is like a game changer because you can translate stuff in real time. It's
I'll make the decision for you guys. You should go to a Japanese ska festival.
Yeah, let's do it.
Interview as many people as you can.
Oh my gosh.
yeah. There you go. I mean, what's
There
How
you
much money we made this past year.
Matt says so.
you got the EIN now. You can write it off on your taxes.
There you go.
But
Yeah.
I have an EIN. I'm writing off all my shows.
Yeah, but it's
Business research.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's kind of funny. The cover of Youthful Exuberance, the building in the back that the little girl is running towards. Actually, it's a friend of mine's daughter. And oddly enough, somebody I met through Tokyo Ska. Actually, oddly enough, the building she's running towards is like Tokyo's version of the Sphere. It's called Tokyo Big Sight, and it's a convention center. And those like pyramid-looking structures on it, they all light up. They could be parts of light shows. They're it's like their version of the Sphere, which I thought was kind of cool.
Nice.
It's funny if I could have just taken like 2 months off of work, I could have gone straight from Croydon to Tokyo or to Japan, then just bummed around Vegas for a month. Taking in the bi-weekly or semi-weekly No Doubt shows for
Every
a month.
week.
You could even bring Gwen something back from Japan. She'd really appreciate that.
Chris, have you been to Croydon Fest yet?
I have not. No, there's so many bands that I've seen that have gone and done it, like, and they swing for the fences. I mean, some of those bands like what's it called? I heard Bobble's band from the UK, Faintest Idea.
Yeah.
A band it's funny. We've been compared to them a few times in the past. But I've always really enjoyed their stuff. They had the Aggrolites a couple of years ago, Half Past Two, I think. It was kind of funny, like the lineup, like half the lineup from Supernova one year, like became like the Croydon lineup.
They had
That was kind of funny.
Stubborn All Stars, didn't they?
They
Yeah,
did
last
last year.
Yeah, that'll be fun. If
We had to
if
miss that
happens again.
set.
Faintest Idea is probably my favorite band in the world. I mean, outside of you
Really?
guys, of course, but like,
Oh.
so it was so exciting to see them live a couple of times.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of funny because I first met their trombone player, Bobble, at actually at Hometown Throwdown. Like, I mean, a lot of those Boston's fans, they would just take over a hotel every year. And I guess Bobble has family in Boston. Like he's from England, but I guess he has relatives, and they would always go to visit them over, the holidays. So, we got the first time I met him, he had, dreads down to about here, and we were playing beer pong in a hotel room, like, near the House of Blues, I think. Or maybe that was near that was still at the Middle East, I forget. But it's weird to see like that, like his band. I'm in a band called This Famous Idea. And to see them eventually make their way to the U.S. It's like, that's neat. I mean, I had no idea they were still going. I mean, there's a lot of great bands in the UK that I would love to see make their way over here, but it's expensive and fuck if you can get in now because shit's
That was their problem. They did Canada last year.
Yeah.
In Michigan, it was easy for them to go to Canada and see them, but
Mhm.
they
Yeah.
it was way too expensive. They said to come over here, and there's also the chance they're going to spend 10 grand and then not be allowed in anyways. So
Yeah, no, it's Supernova is definitely a learning experience for a lot of bands that are looking to make that check. And I can't imagine that, it's not like they didn't give it enough time. I mean, it's just that
No.
it's so colossally fucked that it's like,
And
plan
I
all you
talked
want.
about this with the chains on their interview, and I was like, if it gets approved now, will you be able to use it next year? Like, is it good for a year? And they're like, there's different types of visas you apply for, and this one was for like a specific date, so
Yeah.
it doesn't work that way, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like starting all over.
Yeah, no, I wish I could say it would be getting any better in the near future, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be.
Thousand.
It's,
I was supposed to see JB Conspiracy tomorrow actually, and they couldn't make it over. So with Bobbles in that band,
oh, is he?
Yeah.
That's cool. I had no idea.
They were supposed to play with Big D and the kids table here tomorrow night.
Oh,
And
that's right. I remember that. Yeah, they're doing the run of Halloween shows.
yeah.
I think Westbound's doing
Yep.
doing it now, right?
Yep.
And then it's fun. I did a gig with Uziman last year, for this festival down in Maryland, and that his backing band is just it's incredible. Like I mean, just the who's who of like New York City's like traditional ska and reggae bands. Like it was full Watts band. I think it was like the backing band for that trip, but it was just like such a weird surreal. He's living in Tokyo now. He moved like to Tokyo like 2 months ago.
We saw him at Supernova in 23, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And like he's living, his wife got a job over there. I guess she's Japanese, and I guess she moved back to take care of her mother, who's I think pretty elderly at this point. And it's just he had the opportunity to bring him and his daughter over, and I think he works as a personal trainer. He was working as a personal trainer. I don't know what he's doing now, but it took him like all of like 2 weeks to find like a backing band or to start sitting with other artists, and he's already established like he's got a run of show. He's did like a run of shows this month. He's only been there for like like 8 weeks or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, and he's already like fully immersed himself in like the Tokyo reggae scene, and it's just surreal to see like that playing out in real time. But it's
Well, the scene's much bigger over there, yeah.
well, I mean the grass is always greener on the other side. I wouldn't say it's necessarily bigger, but the impression. I mean, I'd say there are more people. I remember from just comparing it to someplace like New York, there are probably more people that turn out on a regular basis, but all the bands are sort of located in like a handful of cities. It's like it's a smaller country than the U.S. So, I mean, it's like if there was only like if you only had Boston, New York, and like D.C., and that was pretty much it. And you have say you have a fair, healthy amount of bands. Say you only have like 10, 15 bands each city. I mean, there's still only so many combinations of those bands before, it starts to get a little bit stale or a little bit, samey. But it's also there's just so much over there, at least from an outsider's perspective, that just never reaches our consciousness here. Like ska is very much perceived in a local first kind of perspective in the US. Like there are big bands everybody knows about because they have a legacy to thrive on from the 90s or 80s or whatever have you. But then your local bands, I guess the internet has helped extend that bubble a little bit. But for the more adventurous ones anyway, there's still plenty of people that just want to relive the glory days of their high school years or whatever have you. But it's it seems like if you ask like the random person at a show, do you like you're from Michigan, like you know who Donkey Punch is?
Yeah.
All right. If I asked somebody in Boston who Donkey Punch is, they probably wouldn't, know who Donkey. Yeah.
I mean, people much younger than me from Michigan probably don't know who Donkey Punch is, to be clear.
That's true too. We are a product of our time, I suppose. I mean, that's it. I still cackle every time I hear "Oops, my bad." That was a banger. But it was.
I mean, they were a great band, to be clear. I just don't like nobody in Michigan talks about Donkey Punch. So why would anybody outside of Michigan even know about Donkey Punch?
Yeah, that's. I mean, I'm using an outdated example, but I mean, it's interesting. Like a band the boy detectives start to make strides a little bit. Now that they've got, a label like Punkerton backing them and such, where it seems like they've extended their reach a little bit. They did their last record they did with Roger Lima, right? From Less Than Jake.
Yeah.
Not to mention people like us that don't shut the fuck up about them and have friends who can do things.
Yeah. No, so it's really cool to see like a band.
They might be at Croydon with you this year, right?
I think we talked about this already, but
Yeah, they're sleeping on
just
your
adding it
couch.
on.
I mean, that's probably the biggest thing that I've noticed in the last few years. And maybe Matt, maybe you could speak to this. But the way that, no?
No.
Okay, then. I'll stop then.
Go ahead.
No, it sort of seems like the way recognition works at least in the age of the internet is that it's sort of set up in a way that you can't really ever stop or take a break or slow down, and that you have to keep on going, or in 3 months' time, you might as well not exist. And I mean, it's great, but I mean, I've seen so many bands just burn themselves the fuck out, or just completely keep burning the candle at both ends until eventually something breaks or breaks down, and it seems just almost unsustainable in a certain way. Like, I mean,
Well, it seems like that's really the only model anybody has for making a career out of this.
Yeah.
From like this scene is like, because nobody really, you can get lucky. Like you could say like the Interrupters got lucky, and they've made a career in the scene.
Sure.
But like, I mean, they paid their dues too. But like, they didn't have to grind like some bands are grinding. But then like Catbite had to grind.
Yeah.
Ska Network had to grind. Like that's the only model you have now.
Yeah, but it's not even a sure.
But it's also optional because so many people, there's so many bands you and I haven't heard of that are on trying to copy what they saw Catbite do and they saw Jared do, and they're not going to get careers out of this, but they're going to ruin parts of their lives that are good in pursuit of the career.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to name names. You and I have had conversations about certain bands. I think that if hard work was enough to really make it happen, that they would be living on Easy Street and millionaires. I mean, fuck, if it was pure talent that made something like that possible, New York's Got Jazz Ensemble would be a full-time band. The rest of us would be, I don't know, learning how to code and program, I guess. But it's, I mean, it's just like one of those things where it's kind of like the only way to do that. I understand that, yes, you can't do that, but it takes a toll on you. And if your life is not set up to be conducive to that, it gets very difficult very quick. And I mean, I've kind of had to accept that, I'm now in my 40s. I have a career that I have to focus on. I've got, a wife and a kid, and I can't be just saying, all right, well, I'm going to go use all my vacation time on tour this year and next year and the year after that. And I'm going to be constantly, running my social media to the point where I'm constantly talking up and bigging up my band. And I mean, I'm sure that, there are services you can do to do that if you've got money coming in. Like you can pay a publicist, you can pay, people to manage your social media. You can do all these things that, sort of take the pressure off you or, leave some of that stress. But it's like, I don't know, it seems like, like I said, it's a grind. And it's, it just, it starts to get really, at least for me, there comes a point where I need a bit of a break every now and again. I'm not saying months at a time, but, we've been a band for 15 years. I've kind of accepted the idea that, the people that see us like us a lot. But I don't feel the need to necessarily be chasing those people in California, chasing the people in, in the UK. And don't get me wrong, I'm happy when people like us, and that's great. But I don't know, part of it just sort of seems like, to me, at this stage of my life, given the choices that I've made, it seems like I've not set myself up to stay on that grind forever. I like having health insurance. I like having, But I like the fact that my daughter can go to a ballet class once a week or twice a week or whatever have you, and do things like that. And I like being able to be an active part in her life, which I couldn't do if I was on tour all the time and stuff like that. And I mean, and also, I mean, this is another reason why it's a younger person's game a lot of times, because before, when you're younger, you don't have those, or presumably you don't have those, you know, stresses or struggles that you have to do. You can find yourself. You don't have to, if you're still living at home with your parents, now you have to pay rent, never have to support yourself. But it's, yeah, I don't know. It's, I don't know. If I could find a way or a rhyme or reason how to do it and make it all make sense, you know, that would be wonderful. But I just sort of figure out there is no answer, no right answer or wrong answer. It's just sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. And, you know, I'm happy for anyone that it works for. You know, nice work if you can get it. If you can get it, tell me how.
I'm glad that I don't have finances tied to my art. It would be such a problem for me.
Mm.
Like when I kind of realized that it was very freeing to be like, no, actually, like if you reject the commercial instincts or whatever, like you'll actually make stuff that's worth buying, maybe. Like
Yeah.
that's been the difference for me that I've learned personally is like just shifting the priorities to almost like a fanatical devotion to the artistic purity of it. Like, hey, it doesn't this like I self-released my album and then on release day Chuck Wren was like, I want to put this on CD and cassette. We didn't discuss that before I released it by myself. And I don't like it's because it's a good album because I stopped trying to make music that I was going to play for one.
Hmm.
I wouldn't have made this album if I was actively playing shows. But also like if I was still trying to make friends with I'm trying to challenge people more than I'm trying to fit in with people in my community right now. And I think that's I think that I'm where I'm supposed to be, and I wouldn't be here if I had anything
Yeah.
resembling a conventional career. And
No,
so
this is
it's all very freeing for me, and I think that everybody's probably got a version of that.
no, it's a glorious thing, and that's one of the reasons, you know, I was so happy to work with you, because I mean it's challenged me to you know, adjust the way I see some of these things too, and the way I, you know, approach it, and you know, really just stop giving a shit, you know, and to stop giving, you know, credence and power to people, frankly, you don't matter. That's like another part of it too. I mean, no, Whistle, just the thought, Whistle, that there's a group of people out there who have nothing better to do with their time than to just, you know, dump on people with no artistic, you know, influence uh, or cachet, and they make it, you know, what they do with their free time is absolutely mind-boggling to me. But they exist, for better or worse. Um, but it's no, it's something that I've had to sort of, you know, through the, you know, over this journey. I don't know. I mean, part of me is curious, like whether or not, you know, the connection between us has sort of made it to that circle or not. After I cut myself out of it, it's kind of like maybe I'm better off not knowing. I'm just, you know,
I don't know,
probably doesn't matter.
I don't know about you, but there's definitely parts of our community that I'll probably never work with in any way ever again.
Oh yeah,
And it's not always comfortable to run into those people,
yeah.
but I've got my thing to do, and it's not really turns out it's not really related to what they're doing, and that's fine. It's they have a harder time with that than I do.
Very true. And it's no, I'm starting to develop some of those people myself. And I mean, and that's, you know, something I kind of I'll cross that bridge when I come to it, I guess. What that personally is going to cost me, but at this point, I don't really care anymore. I mean, it's like, well, they only really have the power you put into it. You know, they only have the power that you allow them to have over what you do. And you know, at the end of the day, it's a big world. We can all coexist in it. And you know, if we got to stay on our side of the pool, they stay on theirs. So be it.
I
It
don't
would be
even.
funny if they ended up right in the same show, though.
I just I just want to. I feel like I'm almost there. I just want people to stop seeing me as part of the pool, and more of like somebody doing a circus show on the fucking deck or something.
Well, what's called? I mean, they'll remember there are plenty of bands that play in the pool. Who else is doing their shit on the deck? I don't know.
I've always been doing my own thing a little bit different, I suppose.
Yeah. No, there's some value in that, but rather than doing the same cookie cutter shit that everyone does. Yeah. Anyway, I think that's probably where I'm gonna have to leave it for tonight. I get really talkative and when I'm tired, and as you can tell, I'm exhausted.
Are you trying to say that you're going to get more talkative as this goes on? That there's another more talkative gear?
Usually booze is required, but
I'd
yes.
say, should I make some coffee or?
Or coffee, either one.
I already took the day off work tomorrow, so like
Oh,
because
so that's
Matt
why Matt.
knows.
Lucky
So
you.
Matt
Last time we
remembers
talked
from
to
the last
Matt,
time he
it
was on.
like it was 13 hours long or something.
I don't.
Yeah.
This was shorter tonight, I think.
It was absolutely no doubt. No problem.
Oh, well played, John.
Matt,
I will say good night to everybody, and thank you so much for coming on and hanging out with us. And Matt, thank you for your second episode with us.
Thanks for having me back.
Awesome.
thanks for joining us. It was fun, and we'll do it all again real soon.
Yeah, we do live interviews at Critic Fest, so we'll have to sit down in person.
So if we
They're
don't
very
talk
short.
beforehand,
You can't ramble at those.
it won't be a 3-hour interview, but I mean, it could be.
I mean, it could, but we
There
couldn't.
will be beer
there.
there. So
It's like a stopwatch. Just
Your time's over. Goodbye. Got a band to say.
all right. Well, thank you all for being here, and thank you for everyone for listening. And we'll see you all next time. All right.
Yeah, have a good night.
Yeah.
thanks for having me.
I don't know how close you've gotten. Could you feel the pull? Was there something in the proudly rotten that's irresistible? Have you ever been close to tragedy or been close to friends of Kennedy's who act like we've forgotten that we've always known we're all in this alone? And I don't know how much you've tasted just to feel alive. Afternoons just don't feel wasted, deeper down a dive. Have you ever had the odds stacked up so high you had to find the strength to try to rise above folks who never faced it? What we've always known, we're all in this alone. You're not a coward, you just never took the test. Always thought that you would pass, but no proof. You've got a power you think none of us possess. Think you're better than the rest, but no proof. Could you feel the pull? Was there something in the proudly rotten that's irresistible? Have you ever been close to tragedy or been close to friends of Kennedy's who act like we've forgotten that we've always known
We're all in this alone. We're all in this alone. We're all in this alone.
Holy smokes, man. You stole my song. Nice work, my brother.